is Kempis Songster. A lot of people affectionately know me as Ghani. I like to also lift up a couple pieces of wisdom to just guide my own thinking and invoke a spirit in the room. The first piece is by Vincent Harding, who is the late social justice advocate, educator, and contemporary of Martin Luther King. And he said, quote, "The entire course of human history leads us to right here and right now, wherever we find ourselves. And from here and now, constrained but not determined by the past, we are obligated to imagine a future that could restore the innocence of the first day." And the second piece and last piece, for now anyway, is often cited by Bob Moses, and it's by Kingman Brewster, who was the president of Yale University in the 1960s, and it's an epitaph on his gravestone, and it says, quote, "The presumption of innocence is not just a legal concept. In common law and in common sense, it requires a generosity of the spirit towards the stranger, the expectation of what is best rather than what is worst in the stranger." The end quote. And this concept of innocence is something that I had become quite curious about in my life, because it's something that I felt I lost quite early in life. I was born in Trinidad, Port of Spain, Trinidad, of Trinidad and Tobago in 1972. Immigrated to the U.S. My mother brought me to the U.S. in 1979 at the age of 7. And for the next 8 years, I did very well in school. Was in all advanced grades, went to junior high school for the gifted and talented and things like that. But something just happened out of the blue. I wouldn't be able to define it until years later, after reflecting in a prison cell, day in and day out. In 1987, about a week short of completing the 9th grade, I ran away from home, from Brooklyn, New York, hundreds of miles away, with a childhood buddy, both of us 15 years old, where we would join a gang, an organized drug syndicate, and bear with me, it doesn't get any easier for me talking about this. Even though I tell my story all the time, it leaves me exhausted when I'm done. I'm almost tired of sharing my story, but I understand that it isn't, like Sam said, it's important for a different reason, because I know there's single mothers out there raising young boys who are on the verge of doing something rash, maybe like running away or hurting themselves or hurting somebody else. And maybe the utility value in my story is that some mother can, pick up some clues, that can help save their child's life or somebody else's child's life or somebody's life. But we would join this drug syndicate, and 4 months later, holed up in one of those dilapidated row homes where we were selling cocaine for the past 4 months. An explosive act of violence took place between 3 of us. And by the way, it was all runaway children working in this organization from various parts of the country. And I was directly involved in the loss of another person's life, right? But directly involved. And I was arrested and sentenced to life without parole. And I'm here because of Miller versus Alabama, 30 years later. While in prison, I think narrative is what set me on the course to be the person that you see here today, with this greater sense of social responsibility. In my mother's first visit with me in prison, she brought with her 3 books. The autobiography of Malcolm X, the autobiography of Nelson Mandela, and Mark Mathabani's Kaffir Boy. And so it was narrative, it was stories that set me on a path of erudition, of self-development, and more importantly, self-analysis, brutal self-examination for the next 30 years. In the darkness of my prison cell, sitting on the edge of the bunk, with my self-accusing spirit plangent in my ear, like, how could you do something to render yourself so unrecognizable to your own mother, right? And so I think it was every turn of the page reading Malcolm's book and Mandela's book, right? And I would ask my mother years later, why did she choose to give me those books, right? She said that she gave me those books not because she wanted me to embrace any particular kind of politics, but she knew that where I was going, she wouldn't be able to protect me. And she hoped that, she knew that two of these people, Malcolm and Mandela, were in prison and they made out fairly well, and there would be something I would maybe could extract from their lives to shape me and hold me and make me better. You know, and Malcolm went to prison because he became conscious. Mandela went to prison because he was conscious. That's how she put it to me. You know what I mean? And so she, it was my mother that I really accredited, you know, my transformation to, and the importance that she placed on stories, reading histories and biographies of people who went through great trials and tribulations, even people that did wrong, like Malcolm. He was the model for many of us, if not all of us in prison. He was the model for how you transform even after you've done wrong, you know what I'm saying? And then how to divorce yourself from past behaviors, you know what I'm saying, and become more socially responsible, environmentally responsible, ecologically responsible. And so it's those seeds that were planted by the stories that my mother gave to me that opened me up to bigger struggles that human beings all over the world were mired in, and just made me just so ashamed of the selfish and puerile pursuits that I was on, right? And so every day I would wrestle with that shame, and I think that shame was very important to my transformation. Yeah, my involvement in struggle today. Thank you.